I learned so much from doing programs like this, and when I was first asked to speak about this, when we were first asked, I thought, what in the world do I have to say, possibly, about executive function that hasn't already been said? And it turns out, not a lot. So I'm going to be really short. So my personal journey, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my personal journey after I tell you the agenda. So just so you can feel comfortable and know where we're going, we're going to start off with what is there? What have we been thinking about? What have Susan and I been kind of turning over in our heads lately? It hasn't already been said. I think we have some new information and some perspectives that will be interesting to you and helpful. Then, what does the research tell us? And Susan is going to dazzle you with some amazing practical applications, which is where the rubber really does meet the road. And then we're gonna encourage you to try something. We're going to try to motivate you. Okay, so first, a little vocabulary and definitions. Here's something that's going to be really important to know. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm neglecting you over here. So we're going to have, because there would be a quiz, formative, well, it'll just like, the trajectory of your life will depend on it. I mean, don't worry though, really. So here's a fact. Brain fact 1. The brain seeks 2 P's, patterns and pleasure. Okay, so I'm going to say, everybody got it? What does the brain seek? Can I hear you?
Patterns and pleasure.
Excellent. So when I say the brain seeks, you say?
Patterns and pleasures.
Brilliant. Excellent. That's a really important thing to know. And I learned that from Dr. Judy Willis for the teachers in the room. Anybody have the opportunity to see her when she was in town? Anybody know of her? She's cited on the work cited. It's worth the trip. Former medical doctor, neurologist, noticed a spike in the number of kids with ADHD coming into her practice, diagnosed with ADHD, seizure disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder. And she gave up her medical practice, went to get a master's degree in teaching, and taught middle school for 8 years. And then came back to tell us all about how the brain learns and how to teach to a learning brain. Brilliant. And her website is chock full of information for parents and teachers. Now, I would like to tell you a little bit about my personal journey with executive functioning, just to give you a scope of. I think I've dealt with executive functioning from just about any angle you can, except diagnosing and prescribing. So it started when I was a management consultant in the 80s. People used to do that. Do people still do that? They do? Oh, okay. And we would coach, executives who functioned or malfunctioned or dysfunctioned. Actually, what was predictable in that relationship is they would hire us, and then they would ask us to coach their staff, because they're really clear it was their staff that was the problem. So we had to have lots of conversations with them about that. So I dealt with executives. My son was diagnosed with ADD before the H was an option. So that tells you how long ago it was. And I mean, my thought was, well, wait a minute, this is impossible. I mean, that wasn't in my plan. And then I realized it was his father. Duh! So, what do you do? So that brought us to the steps of this school with wringing hands. And this is where my son was transformed. Now, they did not fix him. He's not fixed. He's transformed. He is a young man, and he's 26. He still has executive functioning problems, but he has a terrific life. And he owes his success as a student to this school. And he will tell you that. He has a college degree, he has his own apartment, he has a great job with insurance, and he's off our cell phone plan. I know! It's incredible! This school is amazing! And so my relationship with executive functioning continued, because I kept looking to see, well, what is this thing called it? What? And then I also had a lot of struggles. I don't know what brought you here, but I would be attending one of these things. Like, what am I going to do with my son? Because obviously he's the problem. Because, Right. Okay, so I read books. I mean, I have every book. Is that, how many, I just want to do a little poll. How many here have at least 3 books about organization? Just at least 3. Raise your hand. Wow. Okay, good. How many people have more than 3? How many people have duplicates because you forgot you had? Okay. So then I learned, I became a tutor. I ended up here, I worked here, and this was the formation of me. And this is where the passion for education, this is where I learned it. I was mentored by a brilliant mentor, Tripp, and really discovered what I love to do in life. And that is inspire kids to be inspired by themselves. And that's what McLean has done for us. Now, and I've done a lot of reading. Okay, so back to the vocabulary. The brain seeks.
Patterns and pleasure.
Excellent. Okay, now we're going to talk tonight about routines, establishing routines. Routines, think about routines for a minute. Think about routines you have. I mean, if you can, because we really don't think about them. They're things we do without thinking, mostly. So they don't really involve your reflective brain. I'm going to talk about executive functioning in a minute. There are things that help you, that free up your brain to do other creative things, like write the Declaration of Independence. So we're going to talk about routines, and we're going to talk about new routines. Now, let's go back to what the brain seeks. The brain seeks
Patterns and pleasures.
Great. Is a new routine something that your brain is hardwired to seek? No. So that's the problem. Your brain also has what I like to call, an inner overprotective mother. So it's probably the amygdala or something, but it's the part of you that goes, remember the last time you tried that diet? It didn't work. So why bother? It's like Homer Simpson saying, kids, you tried and failed. The lesson is, don't try. That's your inner protective parent talking to you, your amygdala. Be careful. Patterns, same, and pleasure. Okay, so because I have a concussion, I hate using notes. I like to be. So now I'm finally going to get to my working definition of executive function. Excuse me. I believe that executive functioning is everything great that a human being does. Anything great. Basically, you use your executive functioning. What do I mean by that? Yeah, right? You understand, right? So it's exactly planning anything, but also like letting someone go in front of you. Priorities. It's here's one. It's inhibiting the gesture that you might want to make to the car that cut you off. It's not doing that. So it's everything great that you do, and also all the bad stuff that you don't do that doesn't get recorded. You're accessing your executive functioning. I would even argue it's your New Year's resolution kept. It's you keeping your New Year's resolution. It's you in a loving relationship. I could even argue that executive functioning is key, because it requires that you decide to be the first to apologize, even though you know the other person's wrong. I think I did. Oh, wait, one more thing. Executive functioning is what we use when we create lofty goals for ourselves. Think about what we've done as human beings. I'm going to cure cancer. We're going to send a man to the moon. We didn't even know how. This is so. That's what I tell my students, and it seems to work. So we're going to go with that working definition. Everybody okay with that definition? Okay, great. Okay, what does the research tell us? Okay, I'm going to answer that I'm going to approach this by answering 5 questions. Why? I'm going to have to read it. Sorry, my working memory. Why do people make New Year's resolutions? That's question number 1. Why do people break New Year's resolutions? Why do some people keep them? Why New Year's? Well, why not October 3rd? And why do people have New Year's Eve parties? Why don't they have Halloween Eve parties?
Because it's a marker.
Excellent. Superior. We're going to get there. We're going to take it. You're riding it right there. So let's start here. Why do people make New Year's resolutions? Not what resolutions do you make? Why do we do it? Sorry.
We want to change.
We want to change. Can you say improve? We want to improve. Yes.
Well, it's also socially accepted. They do it because others are doing it.
It's a tradition. It's very pro-social. Yep. We want to change. We want to improve. It's a tradition. We make New Year's resolutions because we have aspirations. Now, statistically, okay. Also on your works cited, John Norcross, clinical psychologist, professor of psychology at University of Scranton. His CV is 56 pages long. I mean, I know. But he studied a lot about people and making changes in their lives. And he wrote a book called Changeology, which is also cited on your work, on your blue paper. He studied two groups of people. One, he talked to them and he said, what are your goals in life? What do you want to do? And then he allowed people either resolve, it was right near New Year's, one group were resolvers. They resolved to do this. As Mike said, it gave them pleasure to do it, to attain something. And another group were called the non-resolvers. Now, and then he visited them 6 months later. Take a guess at the non-resolvers. How many of them were acting directionally solid, directionally in alignment with their goals, of the non-resolvers? What percent do you think? Let's just call it out.
30%.
30% of the non-resolvers were acting directionally aligned with their goals. Anybody else got another idea? Higher or lower? Lower. Yeah, 4%. And of the resolvers, want to take a guess? How many were, 6 months later, how many were acting in alignment with their goals? After, who said 50? 50? 50, and someone said 45. It's 46. So why do we make New Year's resolutions? Because we have aspirations and they work, statistically. So the takeaway? Set goals. Statistics favor those who do. And Susan's going to talk about that later, the practical application of that. Okay, why do they break them? Why do we break them?
Habits.
They're hard.
So here's a guy, he's going to eat that salad. Look at how happy he looks. There's a happy guy who made a New Year's resolution.
They're either not realistic or measurable.
They're not real. Did everybody, can you, what is your name?
Colleen,
Hi, Colleen. Could you repeat what you just said?
they're not realistic or measurable.
They're not realistic or measurable. Did everybody hear that? Excellent. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. We break New Year's, we make them because we have aspirations. We break them because we have amygdalas.
Yeah.
We have that inner overprotective parent that says, you tried, you failed, oh, forget it. Remember though, your amygdala is not bad. Your amygdala is not a bad person. Really. It's there to protect you. The only thing it cares about is asking, what's the pattern? What's the pattern? What's the pattern? And the moment it's pre-conscious, you won't see it. It is it's a hair trigger fast. And they've done fMRIs on people where the people swear that they only saw one face for 60 seconds. And actually there was, in the time that they were flipped, one different face. And people reported, no, I saw one face. But their amygdalas had been lit up. The amygdala doesn't think. We already went through the executive functioning. The amygdala reacts. It's your reactive brain. But it's there to protect you because in case a lion comes, you don't want to be thinking and judging and prioritizing, going, wait a minute, now, let me just think about this for a second. What should I do? You want to be able to fight, flee, or freeze. Okay, so we don't want to, hate the amygdala, but, kind of slows us down. Okay, and it also says, what if we fail? It does. It tells you, watch out, be careful, pattern changing. It alerts your limbic system. It says to your limbic system, okay, just get ready. Don't do anything, but get ready. Get ready to fight. So I want to talk a little bit about a book I'm reading called The Upside of Down. Anybody familiar with that book? It's written by Megan McArdle. It just came out. She's an economist. She went to the Booth School of Business at University of Chicago. And people would say, why, what do you, she says, I'm writing a book, and people say, what are you writing the book about? And she said, failure. And people said, why are you writing a book about failure? She said, well, I was told to write about what you know. And she has failed many, many times. And she opens the book with all of her many, many failures. But here's what she says, and I think this might resonate with some of you. We have kind of a misconception about failure. We think failure is wrong, comes from somebody did something wrong, and then there's someone to blame, or sue, or whatever. No, really, we do. And actually, when you look across history, and her book is really more about how our country came into being as a result of many, many, many failures. I mean, people moved south to avoid the people that they were in debt to. I mean, we're bad. But we think that it's because somebody did something wrong, and actually, it's usually because somebody did something right, or somebody did something that no one had ever done before. That's called innovation! But failure does not feel good. What does the brain seek? Yes, it doesn't feel good. And I'm going to ask you for just 5 seconds to just remember a time when you failed and other people saw. It's not, I mean, I have a whole string that comes up. So yeah, we think it's a really good idea for other people, and we tell our children that failing is okay, but we don't believe it. We don't believe it. And this is according to Megan McArdle. So she tells the example of a rich old man who's being interviewed by a young, ambitious guy, and he says, "What's the secret of your success?" And the rich guy says, "Good judgment." And the interviewer says, "Well, how do you get good judgment?" And he says, "Experience." And the ambitious young man writes it down, and he says, "Well, how do you get experience?" And the rich magnate says, "Bad judgment." So what her point is that we believe that she says, these are her words, children are practically encased in bubble wrap and always under adult supervision. If something goes wrong, we sue because we know that someone, a regulator, a teacher, or someone is supposed to guarantee our perfect safety. And there's no such thing. And because raising children to not be able to fail, like lowering the monkey bars so they can't break their arms, it denies them the ability to learn early, fail early, and cheaply, and often. So that because if you think about Bernie Madoff for a second, and the people who followed him, he promised, it's an exclusive club that you had to, wheedle your way in. But once you were there, you were promised, he didn't guarantee high returns for a hedge fund. It was about 12%. He guaranteed consistent, no lose, no fail. That's impossible. So her point is, teachers should teach students to fail, to acknowledge their failure, to know what they did wrong, so that their correction is actually puts them back on course. It's critically important. I mean, she goes on to talk about how the number of entrepreneurs has declined, and our country is built on that. Okay, enough of her. She said there's no such thing as a risk-free investment strategy in finance or in life. And one more quote from her. Oh, yeah, we're afraid of failure, and so are our kids. And she rallies teachers to help kids overcome their fear of failure, but not by eliminating it, by failing well. So failing well is what she says, means hopefully early, learn from it, really do learn from it, look at it, take a look, what happened? You notice kids are they pull away from it, in tutoring, it's a little easier to get them more interested, but they're definitely not curious about it. What did I do wrong? No. It's pull away. Okay, so what's the takeaway on that? I wonder what's coming up. Oh, there it is. Look, celebrate lots of little failures. So instead of one big catastrophe like Bernie Madoff, you just have a bunch of little bumps and bruises and learn from them. Okay. Why are some people able to keep their New Year's resolutions? Well, there's another book, little book, and it's called One Small Step Can Change Your Life by Dr. Moret. And I think that's how I would pronounce it, M-A-U-R-E-R. And they're beautifully simple. He works with people to change their habits. And he starts by saying, well, what's your goal? And then, it's lofty. I'm sorry, my working memory is terrible, but I asked you your name, so now I want to repeat it. I want to learn it.
Colleen.
Colleen said they're unrealistic and not measurable. Okay, so you're really onto something there. And what he does is they're also, like, even when they get measurable, like, let's say I want to exercise more, and I say I'm going to jog a mile a day. Well, first of all, what does your brain seek? So right away, a mile a day, your amygdala has lit up. It's a change. So what he does is he works with his patients to get them down to this micro thing. Because the most important, something you can do guaranteed every day. So one patient wants to jog a mile a day. So what he started her with is putting on a pair of jogging shoes every day. That's all she was committing to. Someone who wanted to lose weight, I'm going to eat less, I'm going to be on a diet, I'm going to starve myself out. So he finally got her down to, so you can imagine the conversation, how it whittled down. He got her to do this. Break off the first, because she was, I'm not going to eat chocolate, ever. And, he said, that's kind of unrealistic. So he got her to break off the first bite of chocolate and throw it away, not the last. Just the first bite of chocolate. Tiny little thing that you can do every day. So, the takeaway from that? Start small. Why New Year's? What? It's the beginning of what? Another year? Okay, but so what? What?
A new start.
A new start. Very good. Yep. Yeah. So, there's another study by Katie Milkman, who is a behavioral economist at University of Pennsylvania. She and her colleagues study change, how to pro-social habits, healthy habits. How do you establish a healthy habit? So she's very well regarded, and she's speaking to Google, and she has this really interesting concept called temptation bundling, where you take something that you really don't want to do, like jogging a mile every day, and you put it together with something that you like to do, like watch Downton Abbey, or and you do it together. So she's talking to Google, and of course Google's all over it. They want to know when should we start? When? And she had to really think about that as a behavioral economist. Like, well, when should we start? So it just so happened she was there at Google, who gave them, and help me with my language here, 8 years of daily data searches. Does that sound right? 8 years of daily data searches. And she looked for the word diet, because it's the number one New Year's resolution, and she watched it spike. When? On New Year's. Also the beginning of every month. Also the beginning of every week. Then she said, well, let's look at some real people. So she took she took statistical data from the gym at University of Pennsylvania for undergraduates. And she looked at when is the spike in their exercising. Beginning of every year, beginning of every month, beginning of every week, and birthdays, with the exception of the 21st birthday. And I'll let you speculate as to why that is. So, a fresh start, and then she did an experiment. Like, you can invent fresh starts. She did this experiment with this office of people, and she told one group over here, today's the first day of spring. That's all she did. You guys don't. This group began taking action on their goals. This group didn't. It's just amazing. So the takeaway from that is, build in your own fresh fresh starts. One of the children interviewed in this study, which is also cited on your page, said, "I feel like a new person every morning." Okay, so we are at New Year's parties. Why do you suppose we do that? Because the brain seeks patterns and pleasure. Yay! Okay, so what does that have to do with executive functioning? This is Jane McGonigal. Does anybody know about her? She was a gamer. She is still a gamer, actually. She makes video games, whatever that means. I don't know why I'm doing this, because I have absolutely no idea what that means. But she had a concussion, like me. So she got very depressed. Because having a concussion, I know this now, is basically no screens of any kind, no reading. She was a runner, no jogging, no listening to music. You really can't have any sensory input, and basically no life. And she became very depressed and suicidal. So she met a crossroads. What is she going to do? Well, she's a gamer. She made a game. She invented a game, and it was called Jane the Concussion Slayer. And so what do you do in a game? You recruit allies. Her first ally was her twin sister. Her second ally was her husband. You identify the bad guys and name them. TV screens, computer screens, loud noise, lights. She created what she called power-ups, which is a really great word. And those were things that made her feel good. And there's not a lot you can do when you have a concussion. So one of them was cuddling with her dog, and another one was taking a walk around the block, not jogging. And then she created an app, which you can get, called Super Better, and it helps people achieve their goals. So, the other thing she mentioned in her TED Talk, which I really love and which gives me great hope and joy, is that we know about post-traumatic stress syndrome. We know that. We know that happens, but scientists are also noticing a phenomenon where it's called post-traumatic growth, where people are stronger and happier after a traumatic event. And she would definitely say she's one of those. A trauma doesn't doom us to suffer, were her last words. Now, we're going to end with the guru. Takeaway. Make it fun. And you're going to see this in action when you see Susan's applications. But these are all research-based. Okay, now to the guru. There's this woman who has a website, and her name is Fly Lady. And what she does is she does every single thing of the 5 things that we told you to do. She has you set a goal. April's habit, make your bed. She starts simple. The first thing she had me do, you're called a fly baby if you're just new to the program. I'm still a fly baby. And she has you shine your sink. And she has like 12 steps to having to do it. And then if you ever get overwhelmed again, you just go back to just doing that one simple thing, shine your sink. But then you do little habits, and she has great names for them, like, how about this, 27 Fling Boogie. And she has a videotape of herself throwing things out and decluttering. And how about 5-minute room rescue? Your mother-in-law's coming over. You've got, newspapers and trash and yesterday's burrito. And so she says, get a box, throw everything in the box that's not supposed to be there, and put the box in your shower, where your mother-in-law will not look, but you must deal with the box before you take a shower. So she makes it fun. She tells you, you get emails. I get emails from her every day, and she tells me, you're not behind. She gives me a fresh start. You're not behind. Just jump in where you are. So Fly Lady is truly a masterful executive functioning coach. Embrace failure. No problem. You didn't do it. But she also tells you, she gives you goals. She says, your goal today is to get dressed to tied shoes, which I haven't mastered yet. I'm like, really? Before coffee? Really, Fly Lady? Okay, so, but I'm working towards it. so she gives you this very specific and measurable task to get dressed to shoes before you leave your bedroom in the morning. But, you know, if you don't do it, it's fine. And today's another day. Okay, so here we go. 5 things to remember, because you're going to see them again in practical applications. Set goals. They're good. They work. Statistics favor those who do. Fail well. Fail early and fail often. Remember that. I'm talking to myself, really, not you. Start very, very, very small. You could build in your own fresh start. You know, like a little girl, every day I'm a new person. Or fly lady. You're not behind, just step in where you are. And make it a game, because everybody loves to play. Now here's your bonus. A picture is worth 1,000 words. She also sends you pictures of what a made bed was. That was the other picture on the slide. I don't know if you can see it. Now I'm going to turn you over to the capable hands of Susan James.